Yo, 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 what up, y'all? Flash Speaks back. Another video, man. Shout out to the Chicago Sky. Got Vickery number 2. Dose. You know what I mean? Guess the Dallas Wings, which I predict. The Dallas Wings kind of reeling right now. You know what I mean? But we're not gonna make a whole bunch of excuses for success. One thing we don't do around here is make excuses. You know what I mean? For success. So, shout out to him. The key that I explained to y'all in order for this team to turn it around is starting to come into shape. And that is the usage rate of Ariel Atkins. Ariel Atkins, I told y'all before the season started, will be the best player on the team. You got to give her that. As much as I love Angel, much as I love Camilla and their potential, you got to right now look at resume. You got to right now look at jewelry. And Ariel got that. Ariel Atkins right now, best player on the team, 5-time all-defensive team, 2-3-time all-star. You feel what I'm saying? That's resume. That's respect. 1-time champion. And I believe was finals MVP, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, that I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that one. I know she was a vital part of that. But I know she had that legend on her squad that had just retired. I'm not sure if she was the MVP of that finals. But they wasn't winning that thing without her. That I do know. So shout out to Ariel Atkins, man. It took a little bit too long for Marsh to get to that point to realize they need to really go to her, which I'm not going to forget. But at the same time, like, listen, I give guys credit for adjustments, you know. And if that's what it is, then that's what it is, man. Camilla Cardoso, we thank you for your services in that first game. She was dominant. Not so much last night. Right? We talking about 4 points, got in quick foul trouble. Foul trouble probably had a lot to do with, you know, the performance, but there were still moments in there, you know, missing easy little middies and little stuff like that. My point is, Camilla, what she got to do to become that great player is just be consistent. Be consistent. I mean, there's a few things they need to add and have her do a little bit more of, because I believe Camilla actually can do more a little bit further away from the basket. Like right now, she is really good at catching pick and roll passes, especially if they're not bounce passes, and scoring. Well, obviously in the post at 6'7", you know, a few that can stop her. It's really up to her to maybe add little moves, a little bit more moves, implement more of a pump fake, all those little things like that. But it's about the consistency. Are you going to come out and are you prepared to come out and do it every night? And this is the difference between her and an Angel Reese, right? Angel's already shown us the ability last season to string together wins, right? By putting together a double-double streak. She's already shown us that. She's already shown us that she has the battery pack to do it. These are things we know. This is the major difference between them, besides the defensive impact Angel Reese has. Stripping players. You know what I'm saying? Really communicating out there. There's just a number of little things like that that ballers see and understand that a lot of y'all not going to get it, and that's all right, but you're going to have to put some respect on the Barbie's name. Period. She out there directing, communicating, you know what I mean, switching off on whomever. Time she out there got to switch on the Rike, she takes it on. It is what it is. For Ariel and Angel, last year we had Ken and Barbie, now we got Ariel and Angel. You dig what I'm saying? So that's just what the makeup of the team is going to be going forward. Now, Courtney Vandersloot, I'm going to give her respect. She wasn't really great from the field, but look, man, they don't win the game without her. Vandersloot, you got to be real, is the point guard. She gives you some semblance of organized ball on the court. You know, she does getting old. She's there to pass the baton on to the other little blondie, you know. Little engine that could, Haley, who's just starting to get her feet wet. I want to see Haley pulling up more, you know. Just shoot the ball. There's a lot of times where she got space to just take the three and she's trying to drive, and then she puts herself in bad situations. You're getting tied up, jump balls, and all kinds of stuff like that. She'll learn. What I would like to see her do is go ahead out there and spend some time with Kelsey Plum. Really. Kelsey Plum would be the perfect player for her to work with because they are similar size. You know, Kelsey Plum is like that little, you know, she's that shorter player that be lighting up the league. You know, that's the type of player that I would like to see her, you know, and they both left-handed. You know what I mean? I would like to see her, like, spend some time with a little Plum and get it in, you know? So it was a good game, man. It was a good game. Best game so far. Chicago finally looked like, you know, they can at least take care of teams that are just not good. So that's a good thing going into the games that we got coming up. So now we got a nice long break, from what I understand, in the fever coming up. Whether Caitlin Clark will be there or not, I don't know. You figure there's a whole week. It could be possible, you know, for her to come back. Oh yeah, real quick for this joker to keep coming in the comment section, just trying to cause confusion and everything. I forget your name, but we're gonna talk about some of your little whack points, right? Little CC fan, right? Coming in here talking about what he keep doing is trying to make this correlation between Michael Jordan and Caitlin Clark, and like these guys really pushing for the WNBA to just make all these rule changes and all this kind of stuff to benefit Caitlin Clark. And it's this false narrative out there that Michael Jordan needed them to do that in order for him to get past the Detroit Pistons. This is the ridiculous type of stuff that is just being put out there by these, these people are vagrants, man. Scum of the earth, vandals. You know, they're just a bunch of scum of the earth vandals, man. Just coming through, hijacking things, hijacking the airwaves, and just putting out BS, bullshit. Okay? Let me just give you a little bit of a history lesson, young boy. Alright? First of all, it's a false narrative that the Bulls in Detroit were really rivals for the most part. Like, yes, the Bulls had to get past Detroit. They had to get past them. But they were never really rivals like that. And I'm bringing this up because you want to use Caitlin Clark comparisons, okay? Which is, you know, when Michael Jordan comes into the league in 1984, okay, the Pistons are already a contending team. When Michael Jordan steps foot on the court, matter of fact, the year before he steps foot on the court, when Michael Jordan in his last year in North Carolina, Pistons already won like 49 games. 49, all right? So they basically a 50-win team. When Jordan comes, they win about 46. They might slip off a little bit. Why? Because the big dog in that Central Division was a team that I admired a lot, the way they played. That was the Milwaukee Bucks, with a young dog and Sidney Moncrief. Was my favorite two-guard at the time before Michael Jordan came on the scene. Two-way demon monster, lockdown specialist, Sidney Moncrief. Yeah. A Terry Cummins, prime Terry Cummins. Not the Terry Cummins from, the Spurs later, where they sent over there to try to help David Robinson and it didn't work out and all that. I'm talking about Terry Cummins, when he was with Milwaukee Bucks. They had a boy named Randy Brewer that was nice as hell, right? Those was the big dogs winning 57 games, all that. They were like similar to the Minnesota Lynx is now in Caitlin Clark's world. You're not competing with that team right there. Or they were more like the Connecticut Sun of last year, whatever I put it, because they were some defensive demons. Alton Lister, like they were some defensive demons. Okay? Detroit ain't thinking about the Bulls, is my point. They thinking about, all right, how the hell we going to get past these monsters in Milwaukee winning 57 games every year? Milwaukee trying to think about how we're going to get past the Philadelphia 76ers, who over there in the East. They were still big dogs. This is when Doc was still there. Moses was still there. Cheeks was still there, the big three. And then they added a monster by the name of Charles Barkley. Okay? The big mound or rebound, whatever the hell they called him back then. Okay, these were my Sixers. My Sixers. But then the Sixers worried about how we're going to get past who was the big gargantuan monsters at the time, a team that I hate eternally, forever, right? And that is the Boston Celtics with Bird, McHale, Parrish, you know what I'm saying? All those guys. So that was the landscape of the time. I know y'all little young bucks don't like these little history lessons and all that, but this is what it is. You got to understand. Michael Jordan's rival at the time was Dominique Wilkins. That was his rival. When we tuned in to watch the Bulls, nobody was interested in the Bulls in Detroit. Detroit was already ahead of them in their development, like light years ahead of them, trying to figure out how we're going to compete with the Sixers and in Milwaukee, all that. New York had some good teams with my man Bernard King, and all that is what was going on. This is the landscape, so you understand. My foolish young one, okay? The Bulls, of course, slowly making the playoffs with Michael Jordan. They're making the playoffs, getting eliminated, all this kind of stuff. But when people were tuning in to watch them, it's similar to how, you know, how people tune in to watch Caitlin play Angel Reese. I mean, we can argue whether or not they direct rivals, whatever. It was like that with Mike and Dominique Wilkins. I remember Mike and Dominique Wilkins both scored like 40 in the same game, 35 in the same game. We go to school the next day, I'm like, yo, we used to debate who was better between Dominique and Mike. That's what we was doing. We wasn't debating, you know, Detroit Pistons and all that. Detroit Pistons they were out there trying to get titles. Pistons finally, like, all as far as like what was in the paper, it was like what Zeke, Isaiah Thomas, would say about Larry Bird, because they was going through that bullshit. You know what I mean? With that BS about if Larry Bird was a black player, he wouldn't be famous and all that. Bird was like, you know, getting how people was looking at CC right now and stuff like that, kind of. You know what I mean? He was like really hyped and people thought he was overhyped, blah, blah, blah. So that's what was happening. Now back to the Jordan thing. Michael Jordan was eventually going to pass all those teams eventually anyway. Because everybody knew, like, as far as one-on-one players, he probably was better than all of them. Like, just maybe in his second, third year. You know, he wasn't better than all of them at every little thing, but he was like, they knew it. Like, damn, you get this boy some players. But why it's not comparable to CC is Michael Jordan didn't go on a team where they had already in Aaliyah Boston already. They had a dude named Charles Shackelford. You know what I mean? Who was a disappointment. I seen him firsthand when he came to the Sixers. Bulls had an old-ass Iceman George Gervin who was on his last leg. You know what I mean? They had some other guys, man, that, like, bruh, you know, they didn't even think they was going to go to the playoffs until they seen Michael Jordan in practice. And they're like, damn, this young bull might be able to make us do something. So that hyped them up and they played a little better. Right? That's how that was. He ain't get to play with a Kelsey Mitchell or something like that who, while everybody going crazy about that little run CC went on after the break. Kelsey Mitchell was the one that ripped off straight 20-point games, like 10 straight. You know what I mean? Michael Jordan, my point, he ain't had that type of teammate with him. Matter of fact, Michael Jordan never, ever had a teammate that ripped off 20 points constantly like that. The most Scottie Pippen ever averaged in a season with Mike was like 19, right? No, Scottie was a great teammate. I'm not one of them dudes that killed Scottie. Scottie was great, was one of my favorite players at the time. We're going to make that clear. But this narrative that, oh my God, Michael Jordan can't succeed, can't win until they changed some rules. First of all, what rule did they change for? What's this rule? I know you ain't talking about hand checking. Hand checking ain't officially get changed until 2001. Jordan left in 96. We're not going to talk about the Washington Wizards. They ain't do shit for Washington Wizards, Jordan. So that wasn't it. Okay? What are you talking about? The rule where they made an illegal defense where you can't have three players guard a player on the base on the right side of the 3-point line? That's what we talking about? Come on, man. That John wasn't nothing. Why? Michael Jordan was averaging actually against the Pistons with all of the Jordan rules that they were doing, which many of y'all not understand. The Jordan rules were just some unknown rules that Coach Daly put together to stop Michael Jordan, which made it hard, but Jordan was still putting 35, 40 on him. So it ain't stopping anyway, right? The people were still entertained. Jordan, you didn't have this outcry of Jordan fans saying, oh my God, the league, needs, damn, look at that. Ooh, let me focus here. So the league didn't have this outcry of fans saying, oh man, you need to stop being physical, man. Then I heard Michael Jordan, it wasn't none of that. It was understood. This is what it is. You can't take it. Bye, B. You ain't built for it. This is the land of men right here. Nobody said that. Jordan was scoring more anyway. Point is, what happened, eventually, the Chicago Bulls were good enough to get out of the realm of where, they're going at it with the Atlanta Hawks of the world and the Indiana Pacers of the world. The time had Chuck Person and as their best player and all that. They eventually got Reggie Miller. To get beyond those teams to being in the upper echelon, to be able to even compete with Detroit, to be able to even compete with Milwaukee, because Milwaukee was kind of falling down as Detroit started coming up. This happened around 87, 88 when Detroit won their 2 titles, right? So it was just a natural flow and progression of things. The Bulls added some players, Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant. They made that trading Oakley for Cartwright. Now they got a center who was the best guy they could get to deal with Pat Ewing, and other centers. Because if you can't stick a center back in the 80s, you weren't going to win nothing. Either you needed a center or you need somebody that can stick a center. Period. That's just how it was, because the game was mostly in the paint. Everything was centered and concentrated around there. There wasn't all this crazy spacing like you got now. And Jordan was scoring 37 in that situation. That's why he's the greatest I've ever seen. Because the way he was able to score in that situation was unbelievable. So, no, you're wrong, dog. It wasn't this little narrative y'all trying to spread that Michael Jordan just couldn't get past the Pistons until they changed this rule that made him. What are you talking about? So they need them to do for Caitlin Clark, bro. You don't know what you're talking about, man. The Bulls should have beat the Pistons a year earlier than that, if not for Scottie Pippen not being ready. Pippen was only still averaging 9 points a game, and then he had this crazy migraine headache during the Eastern Conference Finals, or whatever series they were in. I believe it was the Eastern Conference Finals. And that's why they didn't get past the Pistons. But slowly, they were getting better and better. They started, especially after they added Phil Jackson. And we can go into the details, but, I don't want this video to be a whole hour long. But eventually, they just, as a team, became good enough to compete with the Pistons. And then when you got a player like Michael Jordan, who's the best player on the floor, they finally got over him. That's all that happened, bro. It wasn't because they just changed all these rules to help Michael Jordan, man. Don't you ever disrespect Michael Jordan like that, man. Don't you ever disrespect him like that, bro. You know what I mean? What are we doing? You disrespecting Michael Jordan for a player that don't have Michael Jordan skills, right? You talking about a player that just wants to shoot threes. Like, what's she worried about contact for? She ain't not seeking contact. She want to shoot threes. And when she get contact, she trying to push off. A push off y'all never see. You know, blows my mind, man. Blows my mind. But anyway, man, let me go ahead. Go Sky. Get with y'all later. Peace.